Hey guys, Matt here with Carolina Coops, and today we're in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Standing next to me is Bethany, and she is going to do a walk around with us because she is going to be the primary chicken caretaker. And also, I learned something new. She works on this beautiful property here, and you are a
horticulturist.
Good. See, she was going to say it. I couldn't. She has an expertise that I don't. And you also have chickens?
I do, yeah.
Awesome.
Love chickens.
So it's the best of both worlds here. So I'm hoping to pick her brain a little bit, especially when we get into talking about the deep litter system and the composting and all that. But again, for you viewers out there, I want to show you this beautiful custom coop we have behind us and talk about with Bethany about the coop and some things I want her to know. And again, just want to hear your feedback. All right?
Absolutely.
Cool. So behind us is Oh, and the other thing I gotta mention, we don't have a lot of room back here, so we're gonna do the best we can to try to get some footage. So back here is the hen house area. It is 6 foot deep by 10 foot wide, and our walls, now also I gotta mention, we got a lot of disclaimers here. This is built on a beautiful foundation, and it's actually 18 inches to the bottom of the coop. So this coop is way taller than it normally would be. They are gonna be adding some more stone to act as steps to make it easier to get into some areas. But again, the hen house is 6 foot deep, 10 foot wide, 8 foot from the top of the foundation to the top of the wall up there. So it's going to look a little odd. Normally, this is where we would be, right? All right. So it's going to look a little funny. So anyways, one of the best parts about any chicken coop is collecting the eggs. So you're going to drop that down.
Nice little shelf here for my basket.
That's right. So I know, you are nice and tall, so it'll be easy for you. What we did here is we had the egg box on the inside. As you can probably already tell, this is a very modern looking chicken coop. That's what we were going for. So an egg hutch just really didn't work out well. So we had the egg box on the inside and we had this egg box door. And what we did is we added this jack chain. So when you come down to collect the eggs, or Jeremy, the chef here, just put your basket on there. Real easy to collect your eggs. 5 nest boxes. And a lot of people think you have to have 1 nest box per chicken. That is not true at all. You can easily get 4 to 6 chickens sharing per nest box, if not more.
They usually have favorite nest box, right? So they're gonna all want to lay in this box.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So you got to let them just figure it out. And then inside there, you can just put some nesting material.
So do you guys have a favorite nesting material you recommend?
My recommendation that I love, because it just makes it easy for us, is straw. And a lot of people criticize me for that. They say because it's hollow, you can create a harbor area for mites. Mites can live anywhere, and then it's going to get caught in their crop. Okay, I don't know. I've never had it happen. But I would say like your long stringy material like hay, or in this case we're looking over there, they got barley. You want something so they can build a nest. You want to take advantage of those instincts so that the chickens can build that nest inside there and have that little job to do. And also that's going to help cushion the eggs.
I'm just wondering about how frequently I may have to clean out the nesting box.
Right, so if you ever have to clean out your nest box, I always tell people something is wrong. You never should have to, and I'll explain more about that when we get on the inside of the hen house, what we do to prevent eggs from breaking and chickens defecating inside there. That's critical, because that's what would happen if an egg broke in there. If they're roosting above an open egg box, they're going to defecate on the eggs. You don't want that.
No.
Nobody wants dirty eggs.
Totally.
So, and then you go ahead and just close this. Gives a nice clean look. Also, with the gate latch, it's nice to add a carabiner, padlock, something here for extra security, just in case an animal tries to climb up here and open this up. Above here, again, you've got tons of ventilation. We have ventilation. We got 3 big windows, and you can open and close them just by dropping that gate latch. But again, because this coop is designed to be really tall, but you got a gate latch on that side, and that window will just shut. Also, right here, the polycarbonate 200. It's stronger than glass. That's all that matters. Yes. Yeah, so you can shut that and block that. Especially when it gets cold and it gets windy, you want to be able to block that wind chill.
Absolutely.
Okay, so back here, this is something that we've never done before that I absolutely love. One of the things about having a chicken coop that is really nice if you have the space and it's in your budget is to have storage. So underneath here, you see these 3 handles. We designed these pull-out drawers. So you may have seen these on our other shed hen house combos where we have those big pull-out drawers. Well, basically what we did is the same thing, except it's not on casters, and it actually cantilevers all the way out. These are 500-pound rated rails, and the wood here is probably about, I'm gonna say about 50 pounds. I would say no more than 400 pounds I'd put on this shelf. and just makes it real easy for you to have tons of storage.
Like bedding.
All right, so you got your drawers. Now also back here we got another window up top. You got your hen house doors.
Open this up.
And go ahead and open that up. Now you have a barrel bolt on the inside here. Or no, actually on this one it's up here. You're gonna open this all the way up.
These doors open all the way. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it actually, it's almost like we can open up an entire wall within seconds. And so people out there have heard me say it a million times. Now you already have chickens, you have a chicken coop. Why would you say you love that those doors open up all the way?
Well, it just looks really cool, and it allows a lot of air to go in, and it makes it really easy to clean.
Nice. That's the whole idea. Is one of the biggest chores about having chickens is that you're going to have to clean out the hen house. But one of the nice things about our chicken coop is this deep litter system. And this is where I actually want to pick your brain as much as possible. So right here is your deep litter door. You got a barrel bolt on each end. And you just drop that down. And notice this white material. This is everyone's favorite. That's a food safe, high density polyethylene. Little overkill, but it makes it really nice. Will protect the entire bottom because that's where you're going to compost. That's a giant compost bin. Now, being that you're a horticulturist, did I get it?
Yeah.
Nice. So you're very familiar with composting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so something I always tell people, and I try to keep it simple, is that what you're doing is you're keeping the nitrogen and carbon in check, right?
You have like 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen.
Okay, so now we're going to get technical. So now talk to me about that. And then let me ask you first, have you ever done the deep litter system with chickens?
I have used that just for insulative purposes in my coops during the winter, but I had, not for the sake of composting. Actually, my composting system has typically been separate, but I know that hemp is like one of the best items for composting because it breaks down so quickly.
Exactly. So one of the things I've read and heard, and I've used it myself, is pine shavings, but because it's more acidic, it's not ideal, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Got to get the blessing from the expert. That's one of the things we love about this industrial hemp. And the other thing we've learned about after years of using it is you're going to see a lot of defecation, and you would think it would stink. There's no smell. It's absolutely incredible.
Right. And it's also not dusty, so it's not going to cause respiratory issues for the birds.
That's so true. So speaking of that, let's to show it and prove it, because we got the good stuff. This is right in from France. They're one of the original companies to make this industrial hemp product. The processing is really, really well thought out, really well developed, and it's nice and clean. If you buy industrial hemp and you've got a lot of dust, it came in from an area like China where they're just not spending the time to clean it. All right, and that's not good. Just like Bethany said, the chickens have a very sensitive respiratory system. We don't want a lot of dust. Also, I'm an asthmatic. I hate having dust. It'll kill me.
Absolutely.
Cool. You want to take a bale
Yes.
and put it up in there, and let's make sure we get a good shot of it here. You want to come in this way?
Pretty light as well.
You made that look easy.
Are we just spreading it out evenly?
Yeah. So let's go ahead and let's open this up. Look at this stuff.
Yeah,
It is just
awesome.
absolutely beautiful.
This is going to break down so quickly.
Yes, it's very absorbent. The other nice thing, one of the reasons why this industrial hemp is so nice, is this is the inside part of the plant. This is where the absorbent part of the plant grows, and that's what we're shooting for is absorbency. If you buy industrial hemp and you see a lot of darker material, that's the outside. And the outside of the plant's very moisture resistant. That's what you use for textiles. And you want that, like our clothes and bags like that. So if you see dark, dusty material, you're defeating the purpose of what you bought it for, basically. So the question we get a lot is, how many bales of hemp do I need for my hen house? And I always forget. So that's why we got to keep documenting it inside in these videos. This hen house is 6 by 8, so we're 6 foot deep, 8 foot wide, and you want to have, I like a good 4 to 6 inches. Would you agree?
Yeah,
Start a nice little
absolutely.
compost.
So it's really soft.
There is 2 44-pound bales of hemp. 6 by 8 hen house. I think that'll definitely get you off to a good start. Even though hemp is going to be a little bit more expensive up front, the other thing I want you guys to consider out there is time and material. So right now, this is 44 pounds. Yeah, that's going to be more expensive if you're pricing out pine shavings. However, not only is this going to do a better job at a deep litter system, it's going to last longer. So you actually save money in your material in the long run. Plus, everyone's time is very valuable. Not only is it going to last longer, even if you were doing a traditional hen house, You won't have to clean it out nearly as many times. But with our system, with the deep litter system, again, people think I'm crazy, and we're getting more and more videos of customers that have had their coops for years now and still haven't cleaned out their hen house, and I love it.
That's so crazy. Having like a traditional together yourself hen house from like Home Depot, I have to clean it out every week.
And that's what you're doing now.
Yeah.
You're gonna be jealous. You're gonna love this. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. You know, my first coop that I built was the same way, and that's how we learned. And it's just amazing with microbes, how nice they are, and how beneficial, especially when we discovered this industrial hemp. It's just been amazing. So there's the inside of your egg boxes. And again, just any type of preferred nesting material you can put inside there. You got your perch bar to make it easy for if you got silkies or special chickens that need to be easier to get in and out of the egg box. Also, over here, I think I forgot to talk about it, but this is perfectly fine. This is just a little ladder to make it easier for smaller chickens to be able to get out into the run area. And as they're in here defecating, one of the things I can't emphasize enough is you're not going to clean it out or add hemp based on visual. You're going to see a lot of chicken droppings. Guarantee it. 50% of the defecation is going to be inside here. You're going to add it when you start to smell that chicken smell. And you're just going to put a layer right on top of it. And that's what's going to help those microbes to thrive and start to compost. And you know, one of the things I've learned over time is it's almost like the tide. You know, you'll start to add carbon, and as it starts to break down, it'll settle down.
Yeah,
you know, where we got 12 inches here to deep litter, and as long as you don't overload it, you don't put too many chickens in here, you'll have the perfect coop to chicken ratio. That'll work out really, really well. Speaking of which, how many chickens? So inside here, you have 3 8-foot roost bars, and I like what's called the 1-foot rule. So you have 24 feet of roosting bar space. So I would never in the hen house maximize 24 chickens, but you're not going to free range here, right?
Right.
Okay, now if you're not sure what free ranging means, it means you just let them outside the coop to go wherever they want. This is a property where that's not going to be an option. So in this particular situation, when I get asked how many chickens, the run is going to trump what number you can fit inside the hen house. And the other thing too is these roost bars, they're chamfered. They got this nice bevel cut. They're 2 1/4 inch wide. Just it's very comfortable for the chickens, where it's not too small, where they're uncomfortable. And also when you do get into, I mean, it gets cold here. We're 7,600 feet in the air. It gets pretty cold. You want it wide enough so their bellies, you know, they'll prevent their feet from getting frostbite. So it's just really, really nice for them to have that option. Also, if you do decide to clean it, they're meant to be tight, but these pop right out just like that out of these sockets that we have if you ever have to clean them. Me, I never clean our roost bars. I'm perfectly fine with the feet marks on there. They really hardly ever get defecated on. But also, look at how big the hen house is. Look at all the cubic volume of air, if you will. You know, a lot of coops you'll see where the chickens, the roof, when they're roosting on the roost bars, the roof is just above their head. We don't want that. We want tons of cubic space that gives you room for air.
Absolutely.
You know?
So like in the winter when the cold winds are kind of coming from these sides, I could close these two and there's still that ventilation window going into the main body of the run.
Exactly.
Awesome.
That's exactly it. You never ever have enough ventilation, especially cross ventilation.
And with, I mean, there are seams in the bottom of this. What's this called again?
This is food safe high density polyethylene. We also call it HDPE.
Okay.
So one of the things that a lot of people think is like, oh my gosh, I got to seal that up like a bathtub.
Sure.
You don't.
So the hemp acts as a sealant. Basically.
That's one of the best ways I've ever heard it put. Yes, this is going to absorb your moisture. And actually, some people, now you again being a compost expert, would you agree that sometimes adding a little bit of moisture can help with the composting? Or what's some of the thoughts that go through your head when you're talking about composting?
Well, there are 2 different kinds of composting. You've got your aerobic and your anaerobic composting processes. And if the hemp is acting as a sealant and you're just adding more and it's slowly breaking down, then this is going to be more of an aerobic system. So you don't have oxygen playing into it. So it's not going to produce as much heat as like an anaerobic system where you're turning the compost does, which makes sense that you don't have to clean it out for years. It's like if you're composting Humanure or something like chicken poo that is super high in nitrogen, where it's gonna like burn your plants if you put it right on the garden. You have to like let it rest for a while in order to get those nitrogen levels down. So you're gonna want more carbon. So I would probably top it off with like maybe, you know, even another bale when I top it off.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if that's your experience, but it just seems like depending on how many chickens there are and how much the droppings they're creating, it seems to me that you need to keep that carbon ratio pretty high in order to get the nitrogen low enough that you could put it right on your garden.
Got you. Okay, so this is good stuff. This is the most detail we've ever gotten into the deep litter system. So, because one of the things that people have said that you can't compost unless it's on the ground. And I just know from doing this for 11 years now, I call it bogus. I've seen it break down. I've seen it compost, but I never truly knew why. Obviously, if you're growing vegetables, it's the timing, right, of when you add the compost. And a lot of times that's why I like to tell people is usually they're already composting. And I always tell them add that to their other compost to make sure that it's broken down so you aren't putting any of the harmful bacteria and pathogens like that onto when you're growing, right? So if so what will you do here? I mean, you're going to be the one in charge of the chicken coop. So what would you do here? What's your timing? Talk to me.
My background is in permaculture design, and when I did my PDC in Kenya, we did a lot of Humanure composting. And I know from working with Humanure that it's an aerobic process where basically it's just self-sealing, which is what I see happening here, right? So you're putting this down and it's sealing out oxygen, it's packing down, it's going to be aerobically turning into humus at a slower pace. So I think you're right on with just saying leave it for years, you know? You have customers who aren't cleaning their pens for years.
Hey, give me some. Nice. Love it.
Unless you want to, take it out, and then I would incorporate it into like a composting pile and try to get it to that anaerobic process so that you are heating it up. Otherwise with this, you're going to just need to give it a long time to break down.
Got you. Okay, so this is good stuff. Now, help me out here. Okay, so you were in Kenya. That's badass. That's awesome. Number 2, you're composting? What did you say?
Humanure.
What's Humanure?
It's human waste.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's actually really common like in so many parts of the world. And there are a lot of specialists who believe that that's how we're going to like reverse climate crises and super deforested lands. Because
You're composting human waste.
Yeah.
Human crap.
Basically these composting toilets, you're mixing sawdust. You like throw sawdust into
It's
these
the same thing
giant barrels.
So-
And then they're sealed and then they're left to rest for 2 years.
All right.
And that's this huge process, and then that goes on the garden. It's like it comes out as like dark, loamy, humusy soil that doesn't smell at all, and it's amazing.
Good. So again, everyone out there, all I can say is from experience, it's worked. How it scientifically works, glad I'm finally learning about it. Because I tell you, I love when my customers call us and they're like, Matt, you weren't kidding. I can't believe how good it works, especially with the industrial hemp. So that's awesome. Bethany here, this is what I can already tell that I like about her is her honesty. She came back and she definitely cares about her integrity and being accurate. And she goes, I got it backwards. And I hate to say, I was like, I thought maybe, but I didn't want to say anything. But Bethany, thank you so much for saying that. So she was mentioning that this system, she said earlier, was
It's an aerobic system. It's an anaerobic system without oxygen. Right?
Without oxygen, yeah. So inside here, composting with the hemp, where we're going to be lacking oxygen. So this would be anaerobic, versus if you're composting where it's on the ground and you're turning it, it's going to be aerobic where there's going to be more oxygen.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got that right. Okay, good. So now to add to it and to be clear, when you said this acts as a sealant, I guess in a way maybe I was wrong by saying yes to that, because really what it is if you have enough absorbent material, in this case the industrial hemp, and you have it's the carbon, you just won't have enough moisture to ever seep through into the bedding of the coop, and even if it did, it's not going to hurt anything. But one of the things I've heard people say about the hemp that makes it really nice versus pine shavings is you have all these different chopped up pieces that actually allows it to be aerobic, but versus pine shavings, because it'll lay flat and possibly be anaerobic. However, what you did say makes a lot of sense, and that is it lasts a long time because it is anaerobic, not allowing the oxygen, and also we don't get a lot of heat, if any at all. You know, I was originally told when I learned about deep litter system, oh, it's going to be a great heat source. And I'm like, oh yeah, great. But actually it's turned out I don't see a lot of heat, which actually used to concern me because I was like, oh my God, it's not composting.
Sure.
So one of the things you said that I was like, oh, whew, it is composting, so you can compost without heat being generated. In this case, it's not generating heat because it's lacking the oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
But it is still a form of composting. But what is it with the composting that, I mean, it doesn't smell, and that's again what I can't wait for you to see in the future.
It's super interesting. You were saying that some of your customers there's like a crust on top, so when they clean it out, they'll take that off and then put that back in as kind of like a starter bed for their new composting system.
Yep.
And then what's underneath it has broken down, right?
Yes.
Into more of a composted form.
Definitely broken down, but not that black gold. Like I think
Right.
you would be familiar with seeing, like when you're in Kenya and you're talking about the hue compost.
Humanure.
Humanure. Anyways, and that's why I'm very careful to tell people about. I would never put it on their garden if they're already growing, because you do gotta give it a chance, I guess, to get to that next stage of breaking down. I'm not sure if there's a fancy term for that part of the stage of the composting.
The next stage of breaking down.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a special term for that, or is it just, hey, it's going from anaerobic to aerobic, and then it's ready for using in your gardens for growing vegetables.
Right. We want it to get to a certain heat if it's going through an anaerobic process where all of the like microbes and pathogens have been killed, and then it's pretty obvious just from like looking at it when it's reached a point where it's soil.
It'll have that nice organic earthy smell.
Yeah, totally. It just turns into this dark, loamy awesomeness. So this isn't going to come out like that. It will need a second like level of composting, or maybe just to be used as like a mulch on top of the garden.
Bottom line is, if you're raising chickens, no one wants the chicken smell, right? And the deep litter
absolutely.
system saves you time, keeps the smell down. And if you're a serious gardener like you are, you take when it does come time to clean, you take this, put it into another compost, let it get to that aerobic state,
Sure.
and then you get it to break down even more. Now, let me just take it to a step further. A question just popped in my head. When you mentioned the mulching, what do you mean by that? If you were to just put this on top, like around maybe flowers or trees, maybe not something you're growing for vegetables?
Yeah, absolutely. Around trees would be great. I mean, you never want bare soil, so anything that has nutrients in it that can protect the soil, just from the elements that is always a great thing to add to your garden.
Wait, is that why we have to mulch? Like we take pine bar, I don't know, we got to go mulch. I thought it was just to make it look good. There's actual benefit to it?
I mean, it's absolutely beneficial. You never see bare soil in nature, and that's actually one of the reasons we have such bad flooding here in the Southwest, because there's such little vegetation on the ground that the water can't infiltrate. So when we have a big rain flood, it all just hits the ground and flows off, because there's no vegetation in the soil holding the soil in place. And if you protect the soil and cover it, cools it down, it makes it easier for plants to grow. And it also suppresses weeds, which is one of the reasons that people do it in their garden.
Nobody likes weeds. I hate weeds. So that's a great idea. Use this as a mulch.
Absolutely, yeah.
So again, just to be clear,
I
again,
got that mixed up, guys.
Bethany, thank you so much for saying that. We are human. That's the other thing. And I know that's why you guys love these videos. We're out here making a difference, getting out in front of the camera and helping educate. The other thing too that I was thinking about too is we get a lot of clients that love, one of the things they love about our, not just buying a chicken coop from us, but the expertise in the chickens, and we call it coopscaping. But a question we get a lot is, gardening around the coop and something that would benefit for the chickens to consume. I'm not sure if you have any expertise in that,
Totally.
advice. Yeah?
Yes, plant trees that are fodder trees, plant mulberry trees, plant trees that are gonna shade and overhang and protect your chicken area that also provide food for them. And that's like the best thing you can do.
Okay, hold on, wait, what kind of trees?
Mulberry trees are really great.
Okay, mulberry trees. Now, what is a mulberry tree?
It's a fruiting tree.
Okay, now is that something we can eat as well, or just?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now do mulberry trees grow everywhere in the United States, or is that just out west, out here? Is that?
I grew up in the Midwest, and I have mulberry trees everywhere. But no matter where you live, you can find something that your chickens can use as fodder that you can grow. I suggest perennial plants.
Now, what do you mean by fodder? That's a term I'm not familiar with.
Just food, like grazing food. so they can go
Fodder
get it for
trees.
themselves.
Okay.
Apples,
Yes.
cherries.
Grow-
No, I don't know.
Trees.
This I gotta learn. Fodder
Totally.
trees, love it. So I can tell that to
Yeah.
people. And also, I hope in the future, especially if you're thinking about getting a custom chicken coop. I mean, this is what we love to do. This is how we started, and I'm constantly trying to add to our team the people that are experts, and you have the ability to even have us come out. We do all kinds of site surveys. And another question too that I forget to mention. People are like, well, gosh, I live in Australia, or live in Europe, or I'm out in California. I can't get a custom coop out here. Absolutely, you can. We're in upstate New York. We're out here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We've gone all the way out to California. We're going out to the islands of Washington. We have shipped coops to Europe. But if you are thinking about a custom chicken coop, absolutely. And we have ways to actually make it very affordable. But most importantly, you're not just buying a great chicken coop. We come with experts and to help make whatever it is your goals, whatever it is you're trying to do, and especially here. You're thinking about chicken coops, custom coops, wherever. Don't care where you live. We can get it there. We can come out, build it on site. Big confusion with raising chickens is heating your hen house. And I always tell people, I don't care where you live. It's a no-no. You want to block the wind chill. But what is critical is if you're going to heat your hen house, which again I don't agree with, especially if you use a heat lamp and you potentially are going to start a fire, but your run better be at the same temperature. It's that rapid temperature change that will stress the chickens out. So block the wind chill, and then even like in a lot of our chicken runs in cold climates, they'll put on what we call polycarbonate run covers. So they'll block the wind chill, but the temperature is the same. And it's just the
Interesting.
chickens absolutely love it. And that is something you guys may want to consider here. Again, 'cause I know it gets cold. When we're here in December or January, there's a polar vortex. I couldn't believe in New Mexico, I thought this was all hot all the time.
Right.
There was snow. We had hail the other day. It was nuts
Yeah.
how cold it can get up here.
And chicken poo is so hot. I'm sure even without heat lamps, the temperature in this space is going to be warmer than the temperature out there in the run. So we'll talk about maybe adding some shields for them in the winter so it is a little bit more comfortable out there.
Yeah, it's all about consistency. Another reason why we do want to have tons of ventilation. We have a big hen house. You got room for air compared to a little small hen house sitting out in the full sun with very little ventilation. Ingrid, if you're editing, bring up our Chinese chicken coffins, if you will. That's what they are. It's just, it's not good. Those are not chicken coops. There's no such thing as a cheap chicken coop. If you're thinking about building a chicken coop, trust me, if there's anything, when size does matter, it comes to chicken coops.
Got that angle there so that they're not nesting on top of the laying boxes.
Yep. Yeah, that's another great point. So that's a mistake a lot of people make, is if you have egg boxes bumped into your hen house, you don't want a flat roof. It's just going to catch chicken droppings, or they're going to sit on it, they're going to nest on it. It's just going to be nasty. So having that nice 45-degree pitch will solve that problem.
Because you don't want to have to wash your eggs, right?
You never want to have to wash your eggs. Now, I know a lot of people got an opinion about that out there, but eggs naturally have a bloom. It's going to protect that egg. And even if a little bit of droppings got on that, I think a mistake that people make is they'll take them inside the kitchen and they'll scrub them and wash them. Well, now that bacteria that may have been on the outside, you just
Push it in, right?
you pushed it in. You eliminated that barrier
That's what I
that
thought.
is meant there.
Because the shell is porous, right? So it's
very porous.
It's absorbing.
Yeah, the shell is porous. It's meant to be porous for when the baby chick is developing and those veins go out to the outside of that shell. That's its way of breathing. That's where it transfers the oxygen.
So interesting.
Yeah, so keep it simple. You don't need to scrub and clean them. If your eggs are getting dirty, it's a poor design. Guarantee it. Also, you don't have to refrigerate them.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
It's so nuts.
Yeah.
And let's just mention porous eggs. People ask me all the time, like, how are your chickens' eggs all different colors? Every time I get my eggs, they're all like white. And some chickens do lay white eggs, but they're not like as white as if you get the cheapest carton of eggs at Walmart. And they're bleaching those eggs. So
They are destroying our eggs.
yeah, and eggs are porous. So you're like,
You're putting
You're
those chemicals in the
consuming
eggs.
bleach.
Yeah, I'll probably be sued someday because I'm being a factory farm, but you're exactly right. People out there, you need to know that. If you don't know
crazy.
that, this is why. If you're on the fence thinking about getting backyard chickens, it's so wholesome and healthy to grow your own food, raise your own chickens, get your own eggs, mainly because, one, they're going to taste amazing because they have a variety of a food source versus the same food over and over in chicken farming. But you're exactly right. The reason why those eggs, see, Americans, we got to get over this. Our food has to look perfect. No, that's not good.
they taste so much better and they look less perfect. It's
Yeah.
the same way with tomatoes and like vegetables too.
Exactly. So they're going to taste better, and then when they go through that cleaning process, it's the worst thing in my opinion to do. They're scrubbing it, they're eliminating that bloom, and then they're cleaning it with bleach and God knows what else.
Right.
And yeah, it's porous. It's getting into your food. It's nasty.
This is obviously like a chicken mansion, but you don't need a lot of space to raise backyard chickens. Like the place I have, my yard is, maybe 10 feet by 15 feet. I have 4 chickens. They eat all my chicken waste, or my kitchen chicken. They eat all my kitchen waste, so I'm not throwing that in the landfill, which is like one of the worst things we can do for the environment. And they're just awesome. They lay more eggs than my household can eat. We're constantly giving eggs away to friends.
It's a good bartering device. That might be something in the future.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's another thing. You want to think about the number of chickens for your property. And I'm glad you mentioned that you don't need a lot of size, because even our Cali coop, we've designed. One of the things we discovered about a lot of our coops, especially in Southern California, is they got the money to buy any chicken coop we build, but they just don't have the space. So we took the best DNA of all our custom coops and designed the Cali coop, and it just works out perfect. You're going up and taking advantage of the instincts. When chickens want to roost, they still go above the hen house, taking advantage. If you're building a chicken coop, one of the things, and this is not a good example, but again, they have a lot of room here. We get the double dip. If you look at our American coop, our Carolina coop, you have the hen house that's elevated, but they still have run space underneath. So if you got a 4x6 hen house, you got 24 square feet. If that's sitting on the ground, you just lost that for run space. And if you're limited on run space, well, elevate it, give them run space underneath.
And shade, right?
And shade, absolutely. And they always love to go underneath there for their dust bath and whatnot. Cool. All right. Well, let's close this up. And
So this is ready to go now. I just need to put bedding, and then I'll just pop the chickens in there, and they're just gonna start doing their thing.
absolutely. So one of the things I advise doing is when you do go to bring your chickens in here. Now, how old are the chickens now that you guys are going to introduce tomorrow?
I haven't met them yet, but I believe that they are already of laying age, so I'm guessing like at least
20.
6 months.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So they're going to be even old. Well, it's about 21 weeks before they start to lay. So what's that?
Okay.
4 to 6 months? Something like that. Anyway, so what I always recommend is, now the chickens are going to have to relearn this coop, and we want to establish good habits. So I recommend, it's easier to handle and move chickens at night. It's easier to catch them. And then putting them up inside here, put them right on the roost bars. They'll feel it with their feet. They'll sit down. And then make sure they got food and water outside their run, and just let them come down on their own. Don't start to be a helicopter chicken parent. Let them learn to come down, and they will learn to come back up at night. But yeah, just put them up in there. I think you got plenty of bedding, but you're the deep litter expert. I can't wait to work more with you and see what kind of results you have and get your opinion on it.
Excited about this.
Awesome. So we'll close this up. We got one barrel bolt there.
Sweet.
All right, so back here you got some big closets. Again, just a disclaimer, I'm down 18 inches. You normally would be up here. So you got a nice big closet. Again, you guys can do anything you want. You can add shelving, put some garden tools in here, do whatever you want. Also, I do have a barrel bolt at the top as well if you want to lock it to make this left door stationary. You don't have to, but just an idea. So you got 4 run doors. You got 2 sections where you have a run door or run doors, and basically very, very simple. You got a gate latch here with a lockout cable. So when you have chickens in there, when you can't free range, you're definitely going to be able to shut this door behind you. I'm just going to open this up. And what's nice about having a double door like this, you got a barrel bolt at the bottom, barrel bolt at the top. You're just going to open this up. So if you do have to come in here with a wheelbarrow or something bigger, you got nice full access. And then again, don't forget you got that lockout cable right there to let yourself out. All right, so another thing I've been wanting to ask you is, a question I get a lot is, Matt, what do we put inside the run? And I always tell people, try to think about what chickens have naturally before coops were invented. And that's like the forest floor. And chickens need to work, and especially when they're not free ranging, make sure the soil is loose and easy for them to scratch it. Now, that's about as smart as I am. Is there anything you can add? If a customer was to ask you, hey, Bethany, what should I use inside my chicken run? Based on your experience from having chickens and your expertise in all the little buggers and creatures and everything that goes on in here, what would you say?
Well, my experience having chickens is just, throwing them in the yard, and they take the soil down. Like, if there's any high areas, they are scratched. It's an awesome way to prepare a space for planting, for instance, for your chickens in there. But I would say, definitely loose material, dirt. Like, you can always find soil, like on Craigslist, for instance. Just come grab it, or maybe sawdust, hay, something they can pull apart and play with and scratch, and grit. Probably get some bags of grit, put them in here to help their digestion.
You know, that's something that I forgot to mention earlier when we did a walk around with the bosses, I guess we can call them. When you are not free ranging, and this is the run, one, you got to make sure you don't overload this. I think it's a huge mistake people make. So for example, this is 10 by 24 is the run space. So that's 240 square feet. Average is 10 square feet per hen. That's bare minimum. I would never go down that tight.
Sure.
The more room, the better. But you know, a lot of people are like, well, I gotta go inside and clean my run. Again, I feel like if you gotta clean out your run, you have too many chickens. I feel like the earth, the ground should be able to keep up with it. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, definitely. I've never worried about cleaning out the chicken yard.
Awesome. So again, if you guys are thinking about building a chicken coop, want to buy a chicken coop from us, there's so many things I want to emphasize why we do what we do. So one, another big mistake I see people make is when they build a run, they'll screen off the top. And that kind of makes sense initially because you think, okay, I got to keep the predators out,
Right.
which is true. But you don't think about the other consequences, like all the leaves that are going to sit on top of the screen. So now you got to go in with a leaf blower, blow them all off. Or more importantly, I always tell people I'd rather have a dry problem than a wet problem. If you have a screened roofed run and you got an area that you got too many chickens in or it's constantly raining, that's going to cause major potential health issues because you're just, you know, again, giving that perfect environment for dangerous bacteria, if you will, right? Versus in this case, my opinion is when you have a solid roof run and you have a dry area, there may be times you may want to add some moisture so you can be more in control of your run area. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Perfect. Good, good, good.
Absolutely.
All right. So, do you have any idea what is it that they brought in here? Do you know?
And it looks to me like compost from the city, probably. Yeah, it looks just like it's a really fine mulch.
Yeah, I see some like a mulch and so this looks good. I always kind of feel like a dark, nice soil is good. So the other thing I want to mention when you're not free ranging, this is their entire world. You got to make sure they have everything that they need. And so you mentioned grit, all right? So, you know, chickens, they got to have teeth. They got to have something that crushes up their food. So if they're in their run and they don't have the ability to get out and find little tiny rocks, you got to make sure they have that. Okay, and then of course you got to make sure they have the two other obvious things, that is water and a food source. So one of the things I always recommend to people is I love when it comes to the food, either a pellet or a crumble egg layer mash. I prefer the crumbles. I think it's less messy. But we use a galvanized gravity feeder. You know, you buy them at any agricultural store, of course, online. And I like to hang it.
Yeah, definitely.
So the reason for hanging it is if chickens try to roost on it, they'll try to fall off. You don't want them defecating into it. And they even make this nice little cone lid that goes on top to make it even easier to keep it cleaner, keep the chickens off of it. So you got to make sure you have a food source. And then the other thing is, one thing I love to tell people is take your table scraps. And we mentioned a little bit in the back of the hen house there. Bring in your table scraps, just throw them in here, and don't ever give them more than they can consume in 24 hours because we want to make sure we don't invite secondary pests. But the other thing that I have found in my run is that it's turning into a compost, and I like that. It helps just allow the microbes to thrive. The question we had earlier is, you know, what can you not feed your chickens? And I will tell people, I feed them everything.
Yes, chickens love meat. They're omnivores. They need that protein. And they usually get it from insects, I think, primarily, if they're like free ranging in their natural habitat. In my opinion, if there are some like leftover food bits that the chickens haven't eaten, that's going to invite insects, right? Which the chickens are going to love.
Absolutely. So right here you have one of my favorite things that we've invented, gosh, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, is our heated water bar system. Now, right here you have your water bar. This is 1.5 inch PVC. As a disclaimer, trust me, it's underneath. It is the PVC that is rated for potable water, is not drain waste back. So this is considered food safe. Now, threaded in here are these 4 red horizontal spring-loaded water nipples. And what happens is the chickens will learn to peck at these, release the water, it's just like a one-way valve, and they'll drink the water. Now, some of the reasons why I love this system is it's a boredom buster. Again, when you can't free range, you don't want chickens to get bored. Let the chickens work. Also, it's going to keep the water cleaner because it's a pain in the butt constantly changing out the water. What do you use now for your water system at your other coop?
I just use a galvanized like water bucket that has a little trough around the outside.
So you probably understand that what I mean. How often do you find yourself changing out that water?
Every day, every other day.
Okay, so then give me your honest opinion. So what do you think so far
my gosh.
of this concept? Never that you've ever used it, and I promise you, you'll see the benefit
I
from
think
it.
this is amazing. 'Cause, I mean, the chickens also are constantly like scratching things into their water trough. So even if it's not empty, it has to be kind of cleaned out for them to have fresh water.
Awesome, cool. So that's one of the reasons why we love it. And then the other nice thing is in the wintertime when water freezes, it's a pain in the butt. You know, you got to go out there, you got to heat it up, or you're constantly changing it out, whatever. We have invented a system where as long as it's plugged in and you got power, it'll circulate and heat up inside the barrel and it never freezes. So I guarantee you're going to love that part.
So then the barrel, should I fill this with a hose? Are we catching rainwater off of the roof?
So that's going to be, you can do it either way. That's going to be completely up to you guys. I think everyone has their own opinion what type of water to use. Some people don't like city water because of the chemicals that go in it. I have some people that freak out over rainwater. Me personally, especially after learning about what's in city water, I'd rather have well water or rainwater, but this is obviously not designed for human consumption, unless I guess if you boiled it, but it's for chickens, and you guys can capture the rainwater or you can fill it up with your hose. I imagine you guys got one heck of a water system here already. So the nice thing about this is you guys can do whatever you want, and what I recommend is filling up that barrel all the way full initially to get that water in there, because when it rains here, well, I've seen it downpour a couple times, but it's usually just a couple drops. So you want to get a good start. And the other thing I can't emphasize enough is make sure, especially in the beginning, keep a close eye on it. Make sure that we haven't sprung a leak anywhere and that the chickens are using it. But I would say, you know, you probably would do a quick once over, at least once a day. Make sure that they have plenty of food, and you just go over and hit it and go, yeah, we got water, or you'll see the chickens drinking it. Because it doesn't rain that much here, I would pay more close attention to making sure that barrel isn't running out. Because one, they're probably going to drink more because it's dry here, but also evaporation. But that's the other nice thing about this system is you decrease evaporation. But when it does freeze, make sure everything's plugged in right and that it's running, and it should be a set it forget it system.
Sweet.
Cool.
I'm just curious if you could go to kind of how to get the chickens to use this.
Great question. Okay, believe it or not, my answer is you don't do anything. Just make sure there's water in here and make sure there's no other water source to compete with this. Chickens are very curious creatures. They will come over here, especially that I've been told because it's red, they're gonna be attracted to it. Chickens love to go around and peck things to check it out. They'll hit it and they'll go, ooh, I got water. Let me hit it again. Ooh, I got water. Then the other chicken sees the other chicken drinking the water and like, ooh, I got water too, look at me. And then they learn to use it. We even have ducks using these. What's that?
They'll like figure that out in the first day.
I have seen them figure it out in the first 15, 20 minutes.
Really?
Believe it or not.
Before you even have the water bar in, they're
Pecking at it. Yeah. That's a true story. And I've seen it take about 24 hours. The other thing is because your hens that you're getting initially are older, they've created some habits already. So it would be good to learn what water are they using now.
Sure.
Because if they're already using a water bar system, because this, you know, these nipples either come horizontal or vertical, that will probably trigger immediate response to using it. If they're used to using a regular feeder, I'm sorry, a regular waterer where it's like a gravity dish fed, like the one you were talking about, I would keep an eye on them. If they're not already checking this out and drinking from it by the first night, the next day, I've done what you do with baby chicks, especially when you get them in the mail, you dip their beaks in water, you can bring them over and just put their beak right on it. And then typically that will teach them right away to use it.
Sweet. And I probably only really need to do that with one chicken, you're saying, and then all the others will see it doing that.
Yeah, especially if you find the one that's in charge, I find. The other thing I wanted to mention, now he goes, everything here, this property is just, it's like a museum, it's perfect. If people come down and they look at that water bar, they go, wow, who's the idiot that screwed that in? It's not level. It's not meant to be. It is pitched up a little bit on the outlet side where that water is going to return to the rain barrel, so we don't have an air dam or air trap down inside here. So when it does get close to freezing, make sure everything's plugged in. And then when it is freezing, make sure it's on, and you'll hear a little tiny hum from this pump, and you'll hear a return. It's going to sound like a little water fountain with the water returning into the rain barrel. And you also did mention that you have a blog that you're starting.
Yes.
And you got an awesome Instagram account. I was stalking you yesterday. You got a lot of followers, some awesome pictures. So what is it actually that you're a horticulturist, but on this particular property, you used another term earlier.
Yeah, on this property, I'm kind of acting food production manager.
Food production manager.
Yeah. So this client has a private chef, and he and I work really closely together just to tailor her menus and make sure that we're growing all of the most delicious, weird varieties of foods, which is super fun. And we're super excited to add chickens to that mix.
Nice. So, and, the one of the things why I get excited about that is, one, as a business owner, and two, we're halfway through our life, I guess, being almost 40 now. But you got to think about the future.
120 is like the new 70, right?
Nice.
You
All
can
right.
live forever.
That's the future, So I love when I get to see what you're doing. It's awesome. It makes sense, and I love to learn about it and be a part of it. And that's why I get to be a part of it with the chicken coops.
Absolutely.
And it just makes sense. Not only is it good for us to start working, put a better value to our food. Because that's one of the things I think that we suck at.
I mean, you're affecting local food systems. It's literally it's the way forward for humanity, in my opinion. We need to bring food resilience back into local communities, and people need to be more self-sufficient. We all are becoming aware, I think, more and more that the food systems in our country are really criminal and not actually designed for our health. So growing your own food, having your own chickens, I mean, that's enough to feed a family right there, You have a vegetable garden, you have chickens, that there, you're good.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I love about again, having your chickens in the backyard versus, I was an exterminator for a long time. I went nuts when we used to do chicken farms or pharmaceutical plants. When they told me, don't speak of what you see inside here, worst thing you can tell me.
Oh, yeah.
And my God, so to learn that these chickens live in conditions that are so bad, you got to pump them full of antibiotics just so they're alive. So that we have convenient food. We're all guilty of it. We love convenient food. But when you're able to get back out and start turning, Ingrid, our marketing lady, she does it. She's got, I think, a 1/4 acre lot that she's taking every square inch and growing food. And it just makes sense. And you put such a higher value to it. Mm-hmm. You're not just going to waste it. And there's that nice cycle that your property will go through. And then, of course, the business side of it, like she's growing microgreens. I saw you in there growing microgreens and just learning so much about that. It's awesome.
It's amazing. And that's really my expertise is in edible landscaping.
Landscaping.
I think is where everybody needs to kind of be going. And then edible landscaping can be so beautiful.
So I wanted to plug, so you got some really cool stuff, and you're gonna be working on a blog. So you have an Instagram that again, I was stalking you a little bit. You got some amazing pictures of doing all kinds of plants and the vegetables.
Yeah, I share a lot of the stuff we're doing here farming on my Instagram. You can follow me there if you're interested. It's Bethany_growing_forward. And I'm starting a podcast, actually, not a blog. It'll also.
I always screw it up. A podcast. I'm kind of jealous. I wanted to start a podcast. So tell me about the podcast that you're starting.
So I'm a total regenerative agriculture, permaculture nerd, and I've made a lot of really awesome contacts in that field. And I am really interested in business and entrepreneurship.
Oh.
So
sweet.
I'm just interviewing different permaculture experts, regenerative agriculture farmers, and business owners, and people who are kind of doing awesome community building things that are going to help humanity growing forward. So
can I get on that?
Yeah, I would love
I'm
that.
a business owner.
I know.
I might have some stuff to say.
I would love to interview you.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got my opinion in things, and again, I've learned it the hard way, but I've learned looking back when it comes to owning a business, you're meant to learn it the hard way. So it's easy, everyone will be doing and all that good stuff. And
that's what I'm really delving into my podcast is the how of starting projects that really affect change and do amazing things for people and for communities and for food systems, like exactly what your business is doing. So that other people can listen to the podcast and feel empowered and inspired to go out there and keep it going.
Nice. Well, I absolutely love that because we need more of that. So that's awesome. So guys,
awesome.
Again, it's your Instagram is.
My Instagram is Bethany Growing Forward, and my podcast will be Growing Forward. I'm recording the first episode this week, and there will be a YouTube channel and vlog that follows, mostly just plant hacks and garden how-tos and design projects that I'm working on in the future.
Awesome. So all our subscribers out there, thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed, please click that subscribe button. It means the world to us. Definitely give us a thumbs up. If you give us a thumb down, fine. Go ahead, tell us why. But leave your questions and comments down below. We're going to be hopefully working a lot with Bethany in the future because I love what she's saying. I love what she's doing. I want to be a part of that. And it's always a mutual benefit to help each other, especially with social media. And also, like today, picking her brain. I can't thank you enough for
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
helping, you know, I always want to learn, and I want to be able to answer every question we get. But I tell people, if I don't know, I don't know, but I love to find out. So also, the podcast was called again what?
Growing forward.
All right, so the podcast is going to be growing forward. Make sure you let me know about it.
I will, absolutely.
And also for us, we got the Instagram, we got the YouTube channel, we got, what else we got out there? I think even Twitter, I don't know, Ingrid, whatever you do, all that social media stuff, please, everyone out there, check it out. Leave your questions and comments down below. But most importantly, we have a great website, a lot of information on there. Please go to our website, carolinacoops.com. Also, one of my favorite, if you have any questions, want to order a coop, talk about chickens, chicken coop, whatever, 919, Ingrid, bring it up right here. I got it right? 919-794-3989. Give us a call, Bethany.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you.
This is
You're awesome.
so awesome. Can't wait.
You rock.
Get this done.
See you guys later.